Hey there, survivor. If you can hear this, it means you're still alive. This is Jack's Nightmares. And wherever you're listening from, I'm glad you made it. Now get comfortable, and imagine this. The world has been quiet for a long time. The kind of quiet that makes every small sound matter. 4 years after everything fell apart, survival isn't about speed or strength anymore. It's about staying unseen, choosing where to stand, and knowing when not to move. Somewhere between two oak trees, there's a place meant to disappear into the ground, built to last when everything else failed. This is about the moments before you trust it, and the moments after you don't have a choice. Sun's already up and baking the side of the building. I've been awake since before it got light, not because I planned it that way. There was this clatter outside, like a loose cart rolling down the alley, and it didn't stop. Kept bumping off trash bins or something. I stayed low until it passed. Thought maybe it was wind, but it never sounded like wind. I've been holed up in this high-rise for a few days now. Some condo up near Central Park. Never got looted far as I can tell. The guy who lived here either died early or got stuck somewhere else. His bags were still packed near the front door. 2 black suitcases zipped up, tags still on. Fancy ones too, the kind with 4 spinner wheels and those expensive zippers. One was toppled on its side, like maybe he changed his mind last second. Food was all spoiled except for some vacuum-sealed stuff I found in a pantry bin behind the kitchen wall. Most of it had gone soft from moisture. I tossed what stank, kept what I could. It's not the food that made this place worth staying in though. It's what I found in the office. A whole wall covered in taped-up maps and papers, handwritten notes, mileage logs, blueprint scans. All local, all legit. Looks like the guy was serious about building something out in the woods. And I don't mean a shack. This was detailed, timber layout, vent plans, drainage paths. Even had sketches for camouflage, rain catchment, underground piping. Not military level, but it wasn't some fantasy either. Guy wrote out material lists, weekend timelines. Guess it was his project escape. Go upstate, build something private where no one would find him. I think he never made it. No signs of a struggle here, no broken locks. Just quiet, like someone packed too slow and didn't make the door. But the notes? Those were still in perfect condition. He had them in a sealed binder. I went through the whole thing over 2 nights. Took breaks so I didn't rush and miss something. He described the location enough that I think I can find it. Said it was built on private land that used to be part of a timber contract. No GPS tags, just land features. Directions like, left at the fork with the broken post. Look for the oaks above the limestone shelf. That sort of thing. The route's about 100 miles from here, maybe more depending on detours. The main road that used to lead into the forest is marked as impassable. Washed out early during the first winter, he said. But he had a backup route scribbled in red ink. I traced it twice on the map. The hard part's gonna be getting out of the city quiet, then making it that far without blowing through all my fuel or running into blocked roads. Or worse. I've got a plan though. There's a car 2 blocks down that looks drivable. Subaru, maybe 10 or 12 years old. Back window's cracked but it's intact. Tires look okay. It's parked behind a chain pharmacy that burned out. The battery's shot, but I saw a working fire truck last month with the hood popped. If I can pull the battery from that and swap it in, I might get enough charge to crank the Subaru. I already have a siphon hose and 2 jerry cans. I know a spot where the gas hasn't all evaporated. Still smells sharp, but not sweet or chunky. I'll run a small filter line through a rag if I have to. The guy in this condo also left behind a few decent tools. Not much. Folding saw, multi-tool, duct tape, 2 headlamps with old lithium batteries. Both still work, barely. I've been solar charging them all morning, using a folding panel I took from his backup bag. That thing surprised me. He had it wrapped in a water-sealed pouch marked spares only. Never even opened it. Probably meant to take it with him but never had the chance. Panel works fine if you keep it angled. Been using it to juice my radio too, though I haven't picked up anything but static and garbled clicks since Tuesday. I'm traveling light. I already packed. Rifle goes over the shoulder. Pistol stays on my right hip in a tight nylon holster I sewed back together 2 weeks ago. 3 mags. Not much ammo, but enough to get out if I don't screw around. My old instructor used to say, a sidearm is what you use to fight your way back to the rifle you should have never put down. Makes sense now more than ever. I don't plan to shoot unless I have no choice. Noise brings them. Always does. There's no telling if the dugout shelter's still intact, but if half of what he wrote holds up, it might be my best shot at staying alive through the winter. City's not holding anymore. Most of the rooftops are stripped of panels. Every generator worth lifting got gutted months ago. Even the rats don't run in packs anymore. The big scavenger groups left weeks ago after the last fires. I've only seen 4 of the infected in the past week. All slow ones. Most of their flesh gone. But it's the quiet that bothers me. That means they're gathering somewhere else. Somewhere I don't want to be when they come back. I'll move out just before sunrise. Carry everything in one pack. If the car starts, I drive slow until I'm clear of the downtown maze, then keep steady until I reach the rural zone. If the car doesn't start, I go back to foot. Not ideal, but I've done longer. I've already burned too much time waiting around for the perfect exit window. I step away from the window and start moving through the condo with my lights off, using the little glow coming in from the street to keep from bumping into furniture. I don't want to add one more noise to the building. I've already taken what I can from here, and the longer I stay, the more chances I give the wrong sound to happen at the wrong time. I put the pack on the rug and do one last check by touch, not by sight. Water on the left side pocket, food on the right, filter in the top flap, tape and small tool roll in the front, medical pouch clipped high so I can reach it one-handed, headlamp in the chest pocket of my jacket, turned off. The rifle sling is adjusted so the stock sits high and doesn't bump my knee on stairs. The pistol sits tight on my belt, magazine seated, chamber empty for now. I don't want a negligent bang in a stairwell. I wrap the condo keys in cloth and slide them into the junk drawer where I found them. Habit from a life that ended years ago. I don't lock the door behind me with the key. I throw the deadbolt and the chain from the inside, then I pull the door shut and let it click softly into place. I listen for a moment with my palm against the wood, feeling for any vibration in the hall. Nothing. The stairwell door is heavy, and the gasket squeals if I let it drag, so I brace it with my shoulder and ease it open slow. The air in the stairwell has that old wet concrete smell, and it stays trapped there because the roof access door is sealed with swollen wood. I go down one flight at a time, pausing at every landing. I keep my weight centered. I keep my steps on the outer edge where the treads are solid. The middle of each stair has been worn and cracked for decades, and 4 years of water leaks did the rest. At the first landing I stop, and I stand still long enough to hear what's below. The building makes its own noises. Pipes ticking, something scraping somewhere, a faint thump that could be a loose door in the wind or something else. I don't guess. I wait. The sounds repeat in the same pattern. Building sounds. No foot shuffles. No wet dragging. I keep going. 2 floors down, I see a dark smear on the wall where someone once leaned and left a handprint. It looks old. The color has gone brown and dust stuck to it. I keep my left shoulder away from the wall anyway. There's no reason to touch anything in here. By the time I reach the lobby level, the light changes. There's a faint blue from outside that leaks through the glass entrance doors. The lobby itself is a wreck of old mail, torn paper, and a toppled plant that dried out and collapsed in a pot. I don't walk across the center. I stay close to the walls and move behind the front desk where the floor is less cluttered. I crack the main entrance door just enough to look out. The street is quiet. No cars moving. No people. Wind pushes a plastic bag along the curb, and it catches on a grate and flutters. I watch it for longer than I should because the motion pulls my eyes every time. I force myself to stop staring at it and scan the corners instead. I step outside and pull the door closed behind me, careful not to let it slap. The air is cold enough that my hands feel stiff on metal, so I keep my gloves on. I set my path down the sidewalk on the shadow side of the street where I'm less visible from windows. There are still mirrors in some apartments, still glass that can catch light. I don't want to be the bright moving shape in somebody's broken view. 2 blocks is not far, but in this city it can turn into a whole situation fast. A single car alarm can drag infected from 3 streets away. A dropped bottle can echo between buildings. I keep my pack straps tight so nothing swings. I keep my rifle angled back so the barrel doesn't tap a mailbox. I reach the burned pharmacy. The sign is half gone, and the inside smells like wet ash and mold. The parking spot behind it is where I saw the Subaru yesterday. It's still there. The body is dusty. The windshield has a long crack, and the back window is spidered but intact. The doors are closed. That's good. Open doors mean someone has already worked it over. Closed doors mean it was ignored or forgotten. I crouch beside the front tire and press my thumb into the rubber. It gives a little but not much. Not flat. I check the valve cap. Still there. I slide around to the hood and feel for the latch under the lip. My fingers find it, and I pop the hood carefully, controlling it so it doesn't spring up and clack. The engine bay looks normal, which is almost strange now. No obvious chew marks. No nests stuffed into corners. The battery tray is empty. Someone took the battery at some point, then left the car. That doesn't mean the car is good, but it means I'll need to bring power. I close the hood again and step away, scanning the street behind me. Nothing moving. I don't take comfort from that. It only means nothing is moving where I can see. I turn and head toward the fire truck I spotted weeks ago. It's parked at an angle near a ramp entrance, half blocking the street. The cab doors are open and hanging crooked, and the front grille is dented. The fire truck hood is latched, and the latch looks stiff. I don't yank it. I test it with slow pressure, feeling for the point where it gives. It finally pops with a soft metallic click that sounds louder than it should. I freeze in place. I don't move my head fast. I don't shift my boots. I hold still and listen for response. Nothing answers. No moans. No footsteps. No sudden scraping. That doesn't mean I'm clear, but it means I get a few more seconds. I raise the hood slowly. The hinges creak. I stop halfway, hold it, then push again until it stays up. The battery is there, big, heavy, and dusty. The terminals look corroded, but the case isn't cracked. I set my pack down and pull out the small wrench from my tool roll. I work the bolts loose one at a time, careful not to let metal slip and spark. I don't need a flash. I don't need smoke. When the battery comes free, I lift it with both hands and feel my arms complain right away. I'm not built for this. I'm not strong. I'm stubborn. And that's different. I carry it in short steps, pausing every few yards to set it down and shake out my fingers. I keep my eyes up while I do it. Setting it down takes time. Getting surprised while bent over is how people end. I get back to the Subaru, set the battery on the ground, and slide it into place. The tray doesn't fit perfect because it's not the same size battery, but it sits steady enough. I tighten it down with a strap I pulled from a suitcase back at the condo. That strap now has a job that matters more than luggage. I connect the terminals and clamp them tight. I go around and open the driver door. The interior smells stale, but not rotten. There's old fast food trash in the cup holder and a cracked phone cable hanging from the dash. I clear the driver's seat fast and toss the trash outside without flinging it. I don't want wrappers skittering down the street. I slide into the seat and put the key in the ignition. The key is already there. That's another good sign. I don't turn it right away. I look through the windshield and pick my first turn. If the engine noise pulls infected, I need to be moving before the first one rounds a corner. I can't sit here with the hood up and the door open. I close the door softly. I turn the key. The starter clicks once, then the engine coughs and turns over. The sound bounces off the buildings and comes back at me. The engine catches on the second attempt and settles into a rough idle. It sounds unhealthy, but it runs. I don't sit there listening to it. I put it in drive and roll out slow, keeping the speed low so the tires don't throw gravel or crunch debris. The first block goes fine. The second block, I hear movement behind me. Not close, but enough that it changes how I drive. I don't look in the mirror for long. I glance. I see a shape step out from behind a car, then another. Slow walkers, heads angled towards the car sound. The engine is a beacon. I keep going. I don't gun it. Fast acceleration makes more noise and attracts more. I keep a steady roll, turning onto a side street where the buildings block direct sight. I reach a stretch where the road is clear enough to pick up speed, and I push it a little. Not much, staying under a speed that makes the suspension clunk. The car rattles anyway, but it's manageable. I keep both hands on the wheel. The rifle rests against the seat beside me, muzzle down, sling looped so it won't slide. The pistol stays on my belt. A few blocks later, I hit the first real obstacle. A delivery truck is jackknifed across the lane, with its rear doors blown open and its cargo spilled. Boxes have turned to mush from rain. The smell in the air is sour. I stop before the mess, cut the engine, and sit still. My ears feel too open without the engine noise. That silence is dangerous in a different way because it invites me to rush. I get out and close the door with control. I move around the front of the car and check the gap between the truck and the curb. It's tight. If I try to squeeze through, I risk scraping metal, popping a tire, or getting stuck. I look for another route. The cross street is blocked by a row of abandoned cars. The other side street is open but covered in glass and broken brick. I go back to the Subaru, start it again, and reverse slow, keeping the engine steady. The infected I saw earlier are not visible now, but that doesn't mean much. I take the side street with the glass. Tires crunch. The sound makes my shoulders tense, and I hate that I can't stop it. I keep moving anyway. Every choice has a cost. This is the cost. A block later, the road clears, and I find a route that angles north and west. The city feels different once you move away from the dense blocks. The buildings get shorter. The streets widen. The number of hiding spots changes, and so does the danger. In the tight streets, infected can appear from doorways and cars. In wider streets, you can see farther, but the sound of a running engine carries farther too. I stay off the main avenues. I avoid intersections with long sightlines, where something can stand in the distance and watch the car. I keep my speed low enough that I can stop without skidding. When the road dips under a bridge, I slow more. Shadows hide trouble. A few miles in, I pass a bus stopped sideways across a lane. Windows are smashed. Seats are torn. The interior is dark. I don't slow to look. I keep moving. Curiosity got people dead early. That lesson stayed true. The sky brightens. I can see my own reflection in storefront glass at certain angles, and it makes me shift my position in the seat. I don't want sunlight flashing off the windshield. I keep the visor down and tilt my head so the sun doesn't catch my face. I reach a stretch of road that used to feed into a major highway. The signs are still there, faded. I don't say the highway name out loud. I don't give my mind the comfort of old labels. The ramp entrance is blocked by a pile of cars, and the pile looks old. It looks like people tried to shove through and got stuck, then left their vehicles, then more vehicles piled on. I take the service road that runs alongside instead, and I follow it north until it turns into a rougher path where weeds split the pavement. The Subaru handles it, but every bump feels like a question. I listen for new noises in the engine. I start to smell gasoline. It comes in faint waves, then stronger. I check the gauges. The needle sits low. I don't have a clean answer for how far that needle can take me, not with this engine and these roads. I need fuel, and fuel means risk. It means stopping somewhere that other people stopped before. It means touching things that other hands touched. It means noise. I angle toward a smaller gas station I remember from an old delivery route, back when I drove pizza around the city. That memory lands hard because it brings up a version of me that did not have a rifle and did not check alleys for movement. I keep driving anyway. The gas station is partly collapsed. The roof over the pumps is sagging, and the glass door is cracked. The pumps are dead. That's fine. I don't need the pumps. I need the underground tanks or abandoned cars that still have usable fuel. I pull into the lot slow and park behind a row of trash bins so the car is less visible from the street. I cut the engine and sit there for a moment, hands still on the wheel, looking through the windshield for any movement. There's an infected at the far end of the lot. It stands near a concrete pillar, head hanging, body swaying a little with the wind. It isn't looking toward me. It isn't reacting to the car stopping. That can change. I don't want to test it. I take my siphon hose and one jerry can from the back seat, close the door softly, and move low along the bins. I pick a car at the edge of the lot with its gas cap still on. I avoid the cars with smashed windows. Those usually got searched. I pick one with intact glass and dust, a sedan that looks forgotten. I slide the hose in and start siphoning into the can. It takes time. The fuel dribbles at first, then flows. The smell hits my gloves. I keep my mouth closed and angle my face away. The infected near the pillar shifts, turning its head toward the sound of the hose scraping faintly against metal. It isn't fast. It takes a few slow steps. I don't panic and bolt. I keep my movements small. I lift the hose out slowly, cap the can, and slide away behind the bins again. The infected reaches the spot where I was crouched and stands there, staring down at the ground. It makes a low sound. Not loud. More of a wet exhale from a throat that doesn't work right. It doesn't know what it wants. It only knows something was there. I wait behind the bins until it drifts a few steps away again. Then I move back to the Subaru, staying in the shadow line. I pour the fuel into my second can, leaving some in the first so I can keep weight balanced. I don't fill the car tank yet. I don't want the smell stronger than it already is. I want to get back on the road, then stop farther away to refuel where I have space to react. I get back into the car, start it, and roll out with slow control. The infected in the lot doesn't chase. It follows a few steps, then stops, confused by distance and noise direction. I don't look back again. I keep going. The road north gets rougher. Flood damage shows in patches where asphalt has sunk and cracked. In some places, mud covers the road, and plants grow through it. I drive around the worst of it, sometimes taking the shoulder, sometimes cutting across an empty parking lot to avoid a collapsed section. The car keeps running, but the engine temperature creeps upward every time I push it. I stop under a stand of trees where the road dips and the branches cover the car. I cut the engine and open the hood slowly, controlling the latch and the hood movement so it doesn't clack. Heat rolls out. I look for leaks. I don't see any, but the coolant reservoir is low. I don't have spare coolant. I have a bottle of water. I don't want to waste drinking water on an engine, but walking 100 miles is worse. I pour a small amount into the reservoir and cap it. I keep the rest for myself. I close the hood gently. I stand there and listen again. The world outside the city has different sounds. Fewer echoes, more wind, more leaves. That also means I can hear footsteps on dirt sooner, and I can hear an infected moving through brush. I refuel the tank with the jerry can while I'm here. The pour spout makes a faint glug that sounds huge to me. I keep my head turning while I pour. I don't let myself stare at the stream of fuel. The fuel smell sticks to my gloves. I wipe them on dirt. It helps a little. Back in the driver's seat, I roll forward again, and the land starts to change. The buildings thin out. The streets turn into longer stretches with trees on both sides. Infected are less common, but when one appears, it stands out more because it's alone. A lone infected can still ruin a day. A single grab at the wrong time can put saliva on skin, blood on a cut, and then everything turns into a countdown. I reach an area where the notes from the condo owner start to match the real world. A fork in a road with an old signpost bent. A low stone wall overgrown with vines. A narrow bridge with water running under it. I slow down and follow the landmarks instead of trusting instinct. Instinct gets people looping in circles. Paper gets you out if you treat it right. The first serious detour hits when I find the access road he marked as the main route. He wasn't wrong. It's gone. The pavement ends in a broken slope where floodwater tore through and carried it away. Beyond that is a wide scar of mud and rocks, and on the other side, the road continues but sits higher and looks unreachable by car. Maybe a truck with clearance could do it, but not this Subaru. Not with one wrong angle sending it into the ditch. I sit in the car and stare at the washed-out gap. The decision is immediate. I cannot drive through it. I can either turn around and try to find another route, burning fuel and time, or I can accept what the notes hinted at and finish on foot. The shelter is not meant to be reached easy. That's part of why it survived. I back up and park under trees, away from the open gap. I cut the engine and start stripping the car fast. Food, water, tools, spare fuel in the smaller can, the binder of notes wrapped in plastic, and a few items I didn't want to carry but now have no choice. I leave the heavier fuel can behind. I leave a blanket behind. I leave a lot of things behind. Every item I keep has to earn its weight. I check my boots. I tighten the laces. I adjust the pack so it rides higher. I put the rifle on the sling, muzzle down, and I keep the pistol in its holster with a loaded magazine, but still no round chambered. I can chamber fast if needed. I keep my hands free for balance and climbing. Before I leave the car, I do one more sweep of the area. I look at the road behind me. Empty. I look across the washed-out gap. Trees, brush, no movement. I don't assume that means safe. I move anyway. Standing still is also noise in its own way. Crossing the washed-out section takes longer than I want. The ground is uneven and soft in places, and rocks shift under my weight. I step slow, testing each foothold before committing. If I slip and cut myself here, I won't have clean water to waste on washing. I won't have anyone to help wrap a bandage. I keep my weight low and my hands ready to catch myself without slamming my palms into sharp stone. On the far side, I climb up through brush to reach the road again. The road is narrower, more of an old logging spur now. Plants grow through cracks. Fallen branches cover sections. I move off the road when the surface gets loud under my boots. Dirt is quieter. The forest air changes fast. The smell of city rot fades. Here it's damp soil, old leaves and sap. It should feel calmer. It doesn't. There are too many places for an infected to stand unseen until it is close enough to sprint that short burst. I keep scanning ahead and to the sides. I keep my pace steady, but not rushed. The notes mention the 2 oak trees near a limestone shelf. That's the anchor in my head. Everything else is supporting detail. I check the map again, holding it low under my jacket so it doesn't catch light. I follow the path that angles away from the road and into older growth. The ground rises gradually. After about an hour, I find the first sign that someone used this area before the world ended. A rusted metal gatepost lying in the weeds. The gate itself is gone. The post is bent and half buried. I don't stop and stare. I keep moving. Landmarks are supposed to confirm, not trap you. I hear a sound ahead that makes me stop. A branch snap, then another, spaced out. Not wind, not squirrels. Something with weight. I step off the path into thicker brush and crouch behind a fallen log. I hold still. I don't bring the rifle up yet. I don't want the scope glint. A deer steps into view, moving stiff and alert. It pauses, head up, ears turning. It bolts a second later, crashing through brush and vanishing. The crashing goes on longer than it should for a deer. Something follows the direction of that noise, slower, heavier, moving through the same brush. I stay behind the log and watch. An infected appears, pushing through branches with its forearms. Clothes hang off it in strips. Its head tilts, listening. It turns toward where the deer ran and starts moving that way, faster for a few steps, then slower again. It doesn't look toward me. It doesn't stop where I am. It follows the noise trail. I let it go. I don't take a shot. One infected is not worth the sound. I wait until it disappears. Then I move again, keeping my steps quiet. The deer did me a favor without knowing it. It pulled that infected away from my line. The day keeps moving. Light shifts through the trees. I don't check the time on a watch because I don't have one that works. I track time by distance and fatigue and how far the sun has climbed. I stop once to drink. 2 mouthfuls. I don't chug. I don't waste. I cap the bottle and put it back. I find the limestone shelf in the late morning. It's a pale line in the ground where the soil thins and rocks push through. The oaks are above it, exactly where the note said. 2 thick trunks, close enough that the canopy overlaps. The bark is rough and dark. The ground between them is covered in leaves and old sticks. I circle the trees slowly. I don't walk straight between them. If there is a concealed entrance, I don't want to step on it without seeing how it is built. I scan for unnatural lines. I scan for soil that looks disturbed, even after years. I scan for a pattern of stones that doesn't match the rest. The first pass gives me nothing. The second pass gives me a clue. One patch of ground has fewer plants than the rest, but not in a clean circle. More in a rough shape that could be explained by foot traffic. It could also be a natural spot where nothing grows. I don't assume. I test. I press the toe of my boot into the leaf layer, gentle, feeling for hollow space. It feels solid. I kneel and move leaves by hand, sweeping slow, not flinging. Under the leaf layer, I find a mesh mat half buried, the kind used for erosion control. It's pinned down with metal spikes. That is not natural. That is someone hiding a seam. I pull the mesh up, working the spikes loose one at a time so the metal doesn't scrape. Under it is a layer of dark tarp, stiff with age. Under the tarp is a wooden hatch framed in treated lumber, the edges sealed with old tar that has cracked. I sit back on my heels and look around before touching the hatch. This is the point where people rush and make noise. I don't. I listen. I watch. The forest is quiet except for wind. No infected sounds nearby. I slide a pry bar under the hatch edge and apply pressure slowly. The wood creaks. I stop. I ease off. I try again on the other side. The seal has swollen with moisture. It doesn't want to break free. I keep working it patiently, moving around the hatch, lifting a fraction at a time. When it finally pops loose, it does it with a soft tear of old sealant, not a bang. The hatch lifts enough that I can get my fingers under it. I raise it a little more, then stop and let it settle so it doesn't slam against its own hinges. I brace it and lift again until it rests open. A stale smell comes up. Damp wood, old earth, something sour that could be mold. I don't climb in head first. I pull my head back and let air move. I take the small flashlight from my pocket and point it down. The beam hits a ladder built into the frame, and below that, a small landing. The wood looks intact, but the metal hardware is rusted. I lower my pack first, holding the straps and easing it down so it doesn't drop. Then I step onto the ladder, testing each rung with my weight before committing. The ladder holds. I move down slow. Inside, the space is cramped but real, not a fantasy bunker. A dugout with reinforced walls, timber frames, a low ceiling. There's a narrow cot frame against one wall, a shelf system on the other, and a small workbench. A vent pipe runs up and disappears into the hatch frame. Another narrow pipe runs off to the side. Maybe the observation tube he wrote about. The air feels heavy. I don't stay standing in the center with the hatch open behind me for long. I move to the side and set my pack down. Then I go back up one rung and look out again. The outside is still quiet. I climb back down and decide to keep the hatch open for a little while to flush the air. I don't want to trap myself in here with bad air on the first hour. I walk the small space carefully, shining the flashlight into corners. I find evidence of rodents, droppings, chewed packaging. A few cans on a shelf that have been gnawed around the edges. Not usable. I find a plastic bin that is cracked and full of damp paper. The paper falls apart when I touch it. That is lost. I find a sealed container that looks better. Thick lid, rubber gasket. I open it slowly. Inside are a few hand tools wrapped in oilcloth. The oil smells old but does its job. A small hatchet, a hand auger, a box of screws and nails in sealed bags. That feels like treasure. I sit on the bench and take a drink of water. I don't relax. I don't lean back and celebrate. This place is only shelter if I can live in it. Right now it is a hole in the ground with damp air, weak light, and an entrance that can become a trap. I start with a checklist in my head, the same way I used to run deliveries. First, air. Second, water. Third, security. Everything else comes after. For air, I inspect the vent pipe. The inside is dusty. There's a mesh screen on the end, probably to keep insects out. The mesh is clogged with debris. That means airflow is reduced. I can't fix it right now without going outside and climbing to the vent outlet. I leave it for the moment and keep the hatch open longer. For water, I look for any stored supply. There's an old barrel in the corner. It's empty. There's a bucket with a lid. Empty. No water down here. That means today I cannot stay underground all day. I need to locate a source or build a catchment fast. For security, I check the hatch from below. The hinges are solid but rusty. The locking mechanism is simple, a sliding bar. It works. It won't stop a crowd of infected if they pile on it for hours, but it can stop a single one from pushing it open. The key is keeping them from finding it. I climb back up to the hatch and step outside, scanning the trees. I move around the oaks, looking for where the vent exits. I find the pipe disguised under a cluster of dead branches and leaf litter. It's not perfect anymore. Years of weather shifted the cover. If someone walked here and looked down, the pipe might stand out. I pull leaves and dirt carefully over the vent cover and scatter sticks in a way that matches the rest of the ground. I don't make it neat. Neat looks wrong in the forest. I also scrape away any boot prints in soft soil, using a branch to break up the pattern. Then I hear something that makes me stop moving. A low groan, distant, followed by another. Not one infected. Several. The sound carries through the trees in a way that tells me they are moving through a corridor somewhere nearby, maybe along the old road line. I drop into a crouch and hold still. I don't run for the hatch. Running makes noise. Noise gives direction. I stay where I am, close to the oaks but not directly over the hatch, and I watch the gaps between trunks. Shapes move through the brush at the edge of the site. Slow walkers, a group drifting. Not a tight herd, more like a loose line following a sound that happened earlier. Maybe the deer, maybe something else. They move with that steady drag, stepping over fallen branches without caring what cuts them. I stay low until they pass, keeping my hands off my face and my mouth shut. I watch one of them pause and turn its head toward the oaks, not directly at the hatch, but toward the area. It stands there for a long beat, then continues on. When the last one disappears, I don't pop up fast. I wait longer. I count slow in my head. I listen for footfalls in leaves. Finally, I move again, gentle, and I go back down into the dugout. Inside, the air feels worse after being outside, because I notice the difference. I keep the hatch cracked, not fully open, to allow airflow without leaving a big dark rectangle visible from above. I set my flashlight on the bench and start sorting supplies. I lay out what I have: 2 water bottles, a filter, a small pot, a few food bars, a bag of oats, a small pouch of salt I grabbed from the condo kitchen, a roll of tape, matches in a sealed container, a small lighter with limited fuel, a compact first aid kit with gauze, some antiseptic wipes, and a few pain tablets. Not enough, but more than nothing. I decide to make a short water run now, while light is good, and before that drifting group returns. I don't want to wait until late afternoon and rush. I take 1 bottle and the filter, plus the pistol on my belt and the rifle in my hands. I leave the pack in the dugout and close the hatch behind me, covering it with the tarp and mesh the way I found it. I do it gently, resetting the spikes as best I can. I move away from the oaks in a wide arc so I don't make a direct trail from the hatch to a water source. Trails are how you get found. I follow a shallow dip in the ground where rainwater would run. I keep my feet on rocks when I can, not on soft soil that holds prints. After a while, I hear water. Not a river, more like a thin trickle over stones. I find a small stream cutting through the woods. The water is clear enough to see the bottom, but I don't trust clear. I kneel and fill the bottle through the filter, slow and patient. It takes time. I scan around constantly while the bottle fills. A branch snaps behind me, not close, but close enough to change the run. I stop filling immediately, cap the bottle, and stand up without rushing. I look into the trees. I don't see anything right away. I take 2 steps back from the stream bank and wait. An infected steps into view between 2 pines, about 30 yards out. It is moving toward the stream, head angled down, hands loose at its sides. It doesn't move fast. It doesn't seem to see me yet. If I run, it will hear the run and follow. If I stand, it may look up and lock on. I back away slowly, 1 step at a time, keeping my weight even. I keep the rifle low. I don't raise it. I don't want sudden movement. The infected reaches the stream and kneels clumsily, putting its hands in the water. It doesn't drink. It only paws at it and makes wet sounds. I keep backing away until I have enough distance and trees between us. Then I turn and move out, not running, but moving faster, careful where my feet land. I take a longer loop back toward the oaks, changing direction twice so my path is not straight. When I get back, I slow down again, scanning the oak area before approaching. I don't see movement. I don't hear anything near the hatch. I kneel, clear the cover, and open the hatch enough to slip inside. Back underground, I set the water bottle down and take inventory of what I need next. I need a better airflow system, I need a way to store more water. I need a way to cook without smoke giving me away. I need a way to see outside without opening the hatch wide. I find the observation pipe again and inspect it closely. It runs from near the bench up at an angle toward the surface, then splits into a narrow chamber. The top is capped with a piece of wood and a simple cover. The inside is dusty. There is a place where something was mounted, maybe a mirror system, but it is gone. I don't have optics. I have a small compact mirror from the condo bathroom kit. I also have tape and wire. That might be enough to build a crude viewing angle. I spend the next hour working on that, sitting at the bench, cutting wire, taping the mirror at an angle inside the pipe. I test it by shining the flashlight and seeing where the light goes. It isn't clean, but I can get a narrow view of the outside without opening the hatch. That changes the way I can live here. It also means I can spot trouble before it stacks on my entrance. I hear another set of distant groans while I work, fainter than before. I stop and look up through the pipe. The view shows a slice of forest floor and the base of one oak trunk. Nothing moving in that slice. That doesn't mean nothing is there, but it means I do not open the hatch. The next task is drainage. I don't need a flood to learn this lesson. The smell down here already tells me damp is winning. I find a low spot near the back wall where water has pooled before. The soil is darker. I scrape at it with the hatchet, then use a small hand trowel I found in the oilcloth bundle. I dig a shallow channel toward a corner where I can place a bucket. It's crude, but it gives water a path. I work slow and steady until the light outside shifts and the view through the pipe changes. The angle of brightness tells me afternoon is coming. I need to decide what I do before dark. I can either go outside again and reinforce the vent disguise and the hatch cover, or I can stay down here and keep working, risking air getting worse. I choose a short outside run. I take the rifle, keep the pistol on my belt, and climb out carefully. I keep the hatch opening small. I slip out and reset the cover, then I move a short distance away to gather leaf litter and dead brush to improve concealment. I do not break branches. Breaking branches makes sharp sounds. I use what is already on the ground. While I'm doing that, I hear footsteps in leaves behind me, closer than earlier. I stop mid-motion, hands full of leaves, and hold still. I don't turn fast. I shift my eyes first. I see movement between trunks. One infected, then another, then a third. They aren't drifting far away. They are crossing the oak ridge line. I drop the leaf bundle gently and step backward toward a thicker patch of brush that gives me cover. I keep my body low. I keep the rifle pointed down, but ready. The infected move past the area where the hatch is concealed. One of them turns its head toward the ground near the oaks, then continues. None of them stop and start digging. None of them seem to recognize the hatch. That is luck, but luck runs out if I keep forcing it. I wait until they move off, then I slip back to the hatch and get down again, sealing it behind me with the cover set the best I can manage. My hands have dirt under the nails. My gloves smell like old leaf mold and fuel. I do not remove the gloves. I keep barriers between my skin and the world. The first night in the dugout is not calm. It is quiet and tense, and that is different. I don't light a candle. I don't use the flashlight unless needed. I sit in the dark on the bench with my back against the wall, the rifle across my knees, and I listen through the wood and soil. When sounds happen above, they sound muffled and close, and that makes distance hard to judge. At one point, something heavy steps near the hatch. I hear leaves compress, then another step. It stops. I hold still. I don't touch the hatch bar. I don't shift my weight. The steps move away after a while. I wait longer anyway. I eat half an energy bar and drink one mouthful of water, then cap it again. The hunger stays. I don't fight it with extra food. Hunger is a warning system. When it gets sharp, it pushes me to make decisions. I need that push. I don't need to be comfortable. Comfort makes mistakes easier. Sleep comes in short pieces. I do not lay flat on the cot frame. The fabric is gone and the springs are exposed. I lay my jacket down on the bench and sit with my back against the wall, head tilted down, hands resting on the rifle. When I jerk awake, nothing has changed, but I still check the pipe view before doing anything else. In the morning, the first thing I do is open the hatch only a crack to get fresh air. Then, I look through the pipe. The forest floor is empty in that narrow view. I wait and check again. Still empty. I widen the hatch slightly and climb out. The air outside feels cleaner, and the damp smell in the dugout feels worse once I compare. I need to fix ventilation soon. I also need to set up a water plan that doesn't require a risky trip to the stream every time. The notes from the condo owner mention rain catchment and hidden barrels. I haven't found any barrels yet, but the notes also mention an old tarp stash. I need to locate it. I follow the note directions, 10 paces north from the twin oaks, then slope down toward the split rock, stash under log. I count paces and find a split rock half buried in leaves. There's a fallen log beyond it. I kneel and feel under the log. My fingers hit plastic. I pull out a wrapped bundle. The plastic is stiff but not torn. Inside is a folded tarp, rope, and a small bundle of stakes. It's damp but usable. That tarp becomes my water plan. I carry it back carefully, keeping the bundle low so it doesn't snag on branches and make noise. Setting up rain catchment in a forest is not simple. If I put it in the open, it's visible. If I put it under thick canopy, it won't catch much water. I pick a spot downhill from the oaks where the canopy is thinner and where runoff naturally channels through a shallow depression. I don't set it right next to the hatch. I set it far enough that an infected drawn to the tarp smell or movement won't end up stomping around my entrance. I stretch the tarp low, not high, angling it so water runs into a container. I don't have a big container yet, so I use a cooking pot and rotate bottles to fill. That takes time and attention. I use rope to anchor corners to roots and rocks. I avoid tying rope high on trunks. Rope on a trunk stands out from a distance. While I'm working, I hear faint voices far off in the woods. Human voices. Not close, not yelling. A man speaking, then a woman answering. I freeze and listen. The voices move across the ridgeline and fade. I don't call out. I don't go toward them. Humans can bring infected. Humans can also bring trouble without intending to. I stay where I am and keep my work low and quiet until the voices are gone. That moment sticks in my head anyway. 4 years and I still react to voices like they are a trap. They could be decent people. They could be desperate. They could be sick. Any of those options can end with an infected problem at my doorstep. I don't have a door team. I have a wooden hatch and my own hands. By mid-morning, clouds roll in. The light goes dull. It starts to drizzle. At first, it's barely there. Then it turns steady. My tarp starts collecting water, and I watch the first trickle run into the pot. It feels good to see water moving into my control, even if it is slow and small. Rain also changes sound. It covers small noises. It also makes the forest quieter in a way that lets bigger noises travel farther. If I hammer inside the dugout during rain, the sound might carry less. If I slip and fall outside during rain, the noise might still carry. Mud also holds tracks. I keep my boots on rocks as much as possible. I spend the rainy part of the day doing careful work inside. I scrape mold off one wall section with a metal scraper I found in the tool bundle. I wipe the area with antiseptic wipes, not because wipes will clean a wall, but because it slows fungal growth where it touches. The wipes run out fast. I stop after a few passes. I don't waste them. I need them for cuts. I improve the drainage channel and place a bucket under the lowest point. I move supplies away from the damp corner. I unwrap the oilcloth tools and rewrap them tighter. I do not want rust. Rust turns tools into liabilities. Later, I hear movement overhead again. More than one. I look through the pipe. I catch a glimpse of a foot dragging past the narrow view, then another. The infected are moving across the oak ridge again. The rain might be pushing them along. It might be masking my presence. I don't know. I keep the hatch sealed and let them pass. The rain keeps going into the evening. My tarp collects enough that I fill 2 bottles and leave 1 pot full. I carry the bottles back into the dugout carefully, wiping mud off the caps before opening them. Dirt on a cap ends up in your mouth later, and that becomes stomach trouble. Stomach trouble becomes weakness. Weakness turns small problems into large ones. The second night is worse because the rain softens the soil around the hatch. I hear a thump above and then a scrape, and I realize something stepped on the cover. The cover holds, but the sound tells me it shifted. I do not open it right away. I wait until the footsteps move off. Then I check the pipe view. I see only rain-dark ground. No feet. I open the hatch a fraction and push up gently, testing the weight of the cover. It moves. The cover still works, but the alignment changed. I fix it from below without fully opening, nudging the tarp and mesh back into place. My hands move slow so nothing catches and tears. If the tarp tears, I lose my water catchment plan. Morning arrives with fog. The forest feels smaller. Sound is odd in fog. It doesn't echo right. I go outside and check the hatch concealment first. The mesh has a slight ridge that wasn't there before. I flatten it. I scatter fresh leaf litter. I step away and look back from different angles. I want it to look like nothing. I also check the vent cover. The leaves I placed have shifted, and a corner of pipe is visible. I cover it again. I press dirt around it. I place a dead branch over the area and break it into smaller pieces by hand. Slow, so it doesn't snap loud. That gives the ground a messier look that matches the rest. I spend the next day scouting short distances from the dugout, mapping mentally where I can move without leaving obvious trails. I find another small water run and mark it with a subtle sign only I would notice. A stone turned on edge. I find a spot where the soil is softer and could hold a small hidden cache. I don't dig it yet. Digging makes fresh dirt stand out. I also find signs of more infected movement than I expected. Tracks in mud, drag marks, places where brush is broken at shoulder height. The infected are not camping here, but they are passing through often. That means my concealment work is not a one-time task. It is constant maintenance. On the fourth day, I make my first major upgrade. I extend the vent path. I do it with what I have, which means it is not pretty. I use flexible ducting from the dugout storage, still sealed in a bag, and I bury it shallow through the soil leading away from the oaks to a spot where the vent outlet can be disguised under a cluster of dead saplings. It takes most of the day to dig the trench with hand tools and cover it without leaving obvious disturbed soil. I do not dig a straight line. Straight lines stand out. I curve it around roots and rocks so the path looks random. I cover the disturbed soil with leaf litter from multiple areas so it doesn't look like a fresh pile came from one spot. My hands get cut by roots and stones, small cuts. I wipe them clean and cover them. I watch every scratch. Blood is not something I ignore anymore. By the end of that day, airflow improves. The damp smell is still there, but less trapped. I can sit inside without feeling that heavy stale layer settle around everything. It is still a dugout. It is still underground. It is still a risk if I get trapped. But it is improving. That night, I hear something different from the usual infected groans. A sharp, repeated knock, far away. Not a car alarm, not a gunshot. More like metal on metal, the same rhythm repeating. It goes on and on. It draws infected. I know it draws infected because I hear the groans grow louder in the distance, then fade as they move toward that sound. I don't move toward it. I don't go investigate. But I do make a note in my head. If something out there can pull infected away from my area, it can also pull them back if the sound shifts. That means I need my own option someday. A way to direct infected away from the oaks if a herd starts lingering. I don't have that built yet. I keep it in the back of my mind and go back to checking the pipe view every hour. The next morning, I wake to a new problem. The tarp catchment has a tear along one corner, probably from wind whipping it during the night. The tear is not huge, but it leaks. Water runs off in the wrong direction. I patch it with tape, using more tape than I want. Tape is finite. Everything I use up now is something I don't have later. I start hunting for replacement materials. Not a full scavenging run to a town, but a search in the forest for abandoned gear, old camps, anything left behind. People used to hike out here. People used to camp. Some of that gear might still exist, rotting in place. I move slow and keep my eyes scanning the ground for unnatural colors. I find a ruined campsite near a small clearing. Fire ring, scattered cans, a collapsed cheap tent frame. The fabric is shredded. Not usable. I find a metal pot with a handle, rusty but intact. I clean it and carry it back. That gives me one more water container. It also gives me one more thing to make noise if I drop it. I wrap it in cloth when I carry it. On the way back, I spot a small group of infected moving between trees, closer than I want. 3, then 5, then more behind them. A drift turning into a herd. They are not sprinting. They are not reacting to me yet. They are moving with purpose toward a sound I cannot hear. I drop low behind a fallen tree and watch them pass. The group is large enough that if it turns toward the oaks, it could linger and stomp around for a long time. That is the worst situation. Not a single infected. A crowd that mills. Crowds collapse concealment by accident. Crowds also press on surfaces until something gives. I wait until the herd moves on, then I take a wider loop back, staying off the ridgeline. I return to the dugout and close the hatch behind me. I sit on the bench and stare at the wall for a moment, not because I want to reflect, but because I need to decide what to do next with limited tools and limited time. I cannot rely on luck that herds always pass by. I need an emergency plan, something I can trigger that pulls infected away from the oaks if they start gathering near my entrance. I don't have electronics. I don't have a siren, but I have rope, metal scraps, and gravity. I start building a noise diversion device during the afternoon. I do it far from the dugout, not near the oaks. I choose a spot downhill where the terrain funnels sound away from my shelter. I hang a metal pot and a few pieces of scrap from a branch using rope. I rig it so wind movement causes periodic clinks. Not constant, not obvious. Enough to pull attention in that direction if a herd is near. I also set a second line that I can tug from cover, making the pot hit scrap with more force if I need to. I test it once. The clink rings out, and it sounds too loud to my ears. I stop testing. I don't keep tinkering. I don't want to draw anything to me during setup. I leave it and move back to the dugout by a different route. That night, I hear infected closer than before. Not right on top of the hatch, but close enough that I hear foot shuffles through leaves. I check the pipe view. I catch a glimpse of legs moving past. The herd is near the ridge. The wind clinks my diversion device faintly downhill. The infected sounds shift a little, drifting toward the clinks. Not all of them. Some keep moving past, but it changes the flow enough that I keep breathing room around my entrance. I stay underground until morning, checking the pipe and listening. When I finally open the hatch, I do it slow and scan before stepping out. The forest is clear in my immediate view. The ground shows plenty of disturbed leaves farther off, but nothing near the oaks. The device helped. It did not solve everything, but it gave me control I didn't have yesterday. Over the next week, my days become a cycle of short tasks with hard limits. Water collection when conditions allow. Mold control where I can. Vent maintenance. Concealment repair after every rain. Trap attempts for food that fail more often than they succeed. Small mistakes that cost time. Time that costs safety. Food becomes the pressure I can't ignore. Bars and oats don't last. I set simple snares along game trails, using wire from the tool bundle. The first snare catches nothing. The second snare disappears, pulled away by something stronger than a rabbit. I follow the drag marks and find only broken wire. That is a loss of materials. It also tells me there are animals out here that can take what I build. I adjust the next snare, using a stronger anchor and placing it in a tighter funnel between fallen logs. Days later, I finally catch a small animal. I do not celebrate. I work fast and clean. I keep blood off my hands and off my clothes. I cook the meat outside in a shallow pit with a small, low fire, using damp wood to keep the flames small. Smoke is a problem. I keep the fire brief. I eat enough to keep moving and save the rest in the coolest corner underground, wrapped and sealed the best I can manage. It won't last long. Nothing lasts long. One afternoon, while I'm resetting leaf cover over the hatch, I hear that same distant metal knocking again. Far away, rhythmic. It goes for minutes, then stops. After it stops, I hear infected groans moving back through the forest in loose lines, confused, searching. That scares me more than the knocking itself because it means infected flow can reverse direction with no warning. I keep working anyway. I don't rush. I set each layer the same way because routine is what keeps my hands from doing something stupid. I finish the cover and step away. I check it from 3 angles. Then I go down and lock the hatch bar behind me, sitting on the bench with the rifle across my lap, listening to the footsteps above drift past without settling. Days later, I find footprints in mud near the tarp catchment. Human footprints, not mine. The tread pattern is different. The stride is longer than mine. Someone came near my water setup. That means someone came near my area. That means I was closer to contact than I want. I dismantle the tarp catchment that day and move it to a new location farther away, even though it costs time and even though the new location collects less water. Less water is a problem. Being found is worse. That night, I hear distant voices again, closer this time, still not shouting. A man's voice, tired, speaking low. Another voice answering. A woman. The words are not clear. I keep the hatch sealed. I keep lights off. I stay still and let them pass. I don't want to know who they are. Knowing makes decisions harder. When the voices fade, I check the pipe view and see nothing but dark ground and the base of the oak. I keep sitting there anyway, rifle in hands, waiting out the last of the sound until I can't hear anything except wind. I wake up the next morning, and my right hand has a swollen cut across the knuckle from a root I scraped days ago. It looks red. It hurts when I bend the finger. That is the price of digging and hauling with limited gloves and damp conditions. I clean it with one of the antiseptic wipes and wrap it. I don't have endless medical gear. Every wrap uses up something I cannot replace. I keep the hand working anyway, slower and more careful. The shelter continues to improve in small ways. The pipe view becomes clearer after I clean dust and adjust the mirror angle. The vent works better after I replace the clogged mesh and improve the outlet disguise. The drainage channel reduces standing water. None of it feels finished. Everything feels like it could fail after one strong storm or one careless noise. One evening, near dusk, I step outside to check the vent cover, and I see an infected standing on the ridgeline, facing toward the oaks. Not moving, not groaning. It stands there for a long time. Then another appears behind it. Then another. A line of them, drifting in, drawn by something I can't hear. I don't wait to see if they come closer. I slip back underground, seal the hatch, and move to the pipe view. I watch their feet pass through the narrow slice of vision. One stops near the oak trunk. It stands there, shifting weight. Leaves compress. It stays for a full minute, then moves again. I sit in the dark for hours while the herd mills and drifts. I don't open the hatch. I don't cook. I don't move tools. I hold my rifle and keep my eyes on the pipe view, waiting for the moment the feet stop and stay. That moment does not come. Eventually the feet pass less often, the groans fade, the herd moves on. When silence returns, I wait longer anyway. Then I open the hatch a fraction, take one look outside, and close it again. I stay down for the night. The herd can drift back. The forest can change direction on a sound I never hear. I don't gamble with curiosity. By the time 2 full weeks pass in this place, the dugout feels less like a hole and more like a system. Not comfortable, not safe in any absolute sense, but it is mine, and it is hidden, and it gives me a chance to keep living without walking into crowds of infected every day. Every piece of progress costs time, energy, tape, rope, food, and risk. None of it is free. On the morning I decide to expand the storage shelf and reinforce a support beam near the back wall, I lay my tools out on the bench and work slow, keeping the saw strokes controlled. I keep the hatch cracked for airflow. I keep the pipe view in sight. I keep my pistol on my belt. The rifle rests within reach, not across the room, not leaned in a corner. My instructor's line comes back to me without effort, and I keep the weapon placement strict because a surprise underground is the worst kind. The saw binds in the wood halfway through a cut. I shift the angle to free it. The blade jumps, and my gloved hand slips. The blade catches my glove and bites into my fingers. It is fast and wrong. I yank back on instinct, and that makes it worse. The glove tears. Blood hits the wood. I clamp my other hand over the injury immediately and press hard, leaning forward over the bench so the blood does not drip onto the floor. I don't shout. I don't slam anything. I keep pressure and grab the medical pouch with my left hand, pulling it close. The flashlight is off. I turn it on low and look. 2 fingers are damaged bad. I can see what is missing without needing to describe it. I keep pressure and wrap gauze tight, then tighter. I use tape to hold it because I need both hands later, even if one hand is reduced. My vision stays on the pipe view between wraps. I check it again and again. If infected are above and I have to move, I need to know early. The cut does not stop bleeding quickly. I keep pressure and add more gauze. I use one of my last antiseptic wipes on the skin around the wound, not inside, and I keep wrapping. I do not have a tourniquet set up. I don't want to trap blood flow in my whole hand unless it becomes the only option. I keep pressure and wait until the bleed slows. When it finally slows enough that I can move without leaving a trail, I sit back, keeping the injured hand held high and still. I look at the bench and the tools and the half-cut wood, and I don't let myself get angry at the world. Anger does nothing here. What matters is whether I can still work tomorrow, and how much gear I burned today managing the injury. I clean the bench surface with a damp cloth and dirt water, then wipe it again. I keep blood off the main work area. Blood has a smell. Blood is also a risk if infected ever break into this place. I don't want any extra reason for them to linger. That afternoon, I don't do more construction. I sit and test how my hand grips tools with the new wrap. It is weak. It slips. The fingers don't behave the way they did yesterday. I adjust grip positions. I move tools to the left side where my other hand can control them better. I reorganize the bench so I don't have to reach far. I also accept that my pace changes now. Projects that took a day will take 2. Tasks that required fine grip will require new tricks. That increases exposure time outside and inside. It increases the chance of more mistakes. I don't get to pretend otherwise. That night, I keep the pistol closer than usual. I keep the rifle across my lap. I don't sleep much. The injury changes the way every small sound feels. Not inside my body, but in my choices. I find myself pausing longer before moving. I find myself checking the pipe view more often. In the morning, the wrap is soaked through and stiff. I replace it with fresh gauze, using up another piece of my limited kit. I clean the skin around it again. The swelling is worse. I test finger movement and stop when pain makes the finger jerk. Jerking can reopen the wound. Reopening the wound means more gauze and more time. I stay alive through that week by shrinking my work to what is necessary. Water, food, concealment, vent. Everything else waits. The dugout stops improving for a while, not because I don't want it, but because the hand decides the schedule. One afternoon, I check the pipe view and see a pair of boots in the slice of ground outside. Not infected feet. Boots. Human. The boots pause, then move. I keep still. I keep lights off. I don't open the hatch. The boots move away. A few minutes later I hear a faint cough, then a low voice. Then silence. After a while, I hear an infected groan, then another, then the sound of shuffling feet moving toward the voices. The humans are not careful, or the humans are exhausted. Either way, those voices bring infected into my ridgeline again. I reach for the rope line I rigged for my diversion device. I pull it once, hard, making the metal pot strike scrap downhill. The sound is sharp. It rings out. I pull again after a short pause. The clink repeats, steady enough to become a target. The infected sounds shift. Groans drift downhill toward the clinks. The human voices stop. Footsteps run through brush, moving away fast. I don't chase. I don't shout. I keep pulling the line in controlled intervals until the infected sounds fade away from my ridge. Then I stop. I don't keep ringing it. Too much sound keeps infected milling. That event leaves me with a clear fact. Other humans can bring danger into my area without intending harm. My defense is not fighting people. My defense is staying unseen and controlling sound in a way that pulls infected away. Weeks pass with that same rhythm. The hand slowly stabilizes into a damaged state I can work around. The tarp catchment gets patched again and again until it becomes more tape than tarp. My snares catch enough to keep me moving, but never enough to relax. The infected continue to drift through the oak ridge, never fully leaving, never fully settling, always ready to turn my home into a problem if I get careless. One day, after a long rain, The ground around the hatch softens enough that the cover shifts again. This time it shifts more than before. A small gap opens where dark wood shows under leaves. That gap is a signal for any eyes that still know what to look for, a signal for an infected to step on and feel the hollow. I spend the entire afternoon rebuilding the concealment layer, moving dirt, leaves, sticks, and mesh, making it blend again. I do it slow, even with the injured hand fighting me. I do it until the cover looks wrong in no direction. Then I step away and stare at the oaks and the ground between them, and I force myself to see the site as an outsider would. I want it to look empty and useless. That night, I sit inside the dugout and listen to the forest settle. The vent breathes faintly. The pipe view shows nothing but dark ground. My supplies are reduced compared to when I arrived, but my system is stronger. I don't have a perfect shelter. I have a hidden dugout between two oak trees that I can maintain, repair, and defend with discipline. In the morning, I wake up to wind. The wind hits the canopy hard enough that branches creak and leaves rain down onto the ground. The diversion device clinks occasionally downhill. That clink becomes a steady background feature now. It draws infected sometimes. It also keeps them moving through, not settling on my ridge. I get up, check the pipe view, and start the day with the same order. Air, water, security, then food, then repairs. I don't rush. I don't daydream about comfort. I keep working, because the only thing that keeps this place hidden is the work. And that's where we'll stop for now. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and tell me how the story hit you, what moments worked, what didn't, and what you'd want to hear next. And a big thank you to everyone supporting the channel. You keep this project alive. Until next time, Survivor, Jack's Nightmares, signing off.